All right, guys, we are back in my garage for another video, and today I'm super excited because we are installing probably one of the best handling upgrades in my opinion that nobody really talks about. I mean, I've made a video about it a while back, but a lot of people haven't seen it yet, so we're going to talk about it again. What we're installing are the SPL parts front control arms. These are made for a bunch of different platforms, but in this video, we're going to be installing them on my 340i. I'm taking this car to the track in a couple weeks, and so I'm really excited to see how this improves the handling and performance. Now, some of you might know that SPL Parts is sponsoring my build. They've been a supporter of the channel for the past year or so, but I installed these same control arms on my 440 almost 5 years ago before they even knew who I was. So these are generally parts that I am really excited about and I really believe in. It's something that I've been running for almost half a decade now, and I'm really excited to put them to the test on the track on my 340i. And keep in mind, these fit X-Drive cars, rear-wheel drive cars, and they really dynamically improve your car's performance. It's not like a static mod, like lowering it or adding camber plates. This is something that improves your entire suspension geometry. So when you're going through turns, it gives you the maximum amount of traction possible. So we're gonna go ahead and install them on my 340i. I'll show you exactly what makes these different and how they improve the performance of your car. And definitely check out the link in the video description so you can find all of the different upgrades they have available for the drivetrain on your vehicle. So hopefully you guys find this video useful.
Now, as always, for everybody that's new to the channel, I create these videos to help keep you updated on the latest developments in our community, as well as discuss technical topics so that we have a better understanding of how our engines work. So if you're interested in more videos like that, be sure to subscribe because there will be a lot more coming out in the future.
So the first thing, of course, you need to do is jack up the car. We're going to jack up the entire front end, specifically because the sway bar that goes across the front end will kind of put a preload on the suspension components if you only jack up one side. So it might seem easy to do one side at a time, just jack up the corner you're working on and take the wheel off. But we're going to jack up the entire front end so everything moves nice and freely, and it should be easier to get all the components off. Then, of course, the next thing we need to do is take off the wheels. The control arms are going to be behind here. Now, before we go too far, I want to try to illustrate why control arms I would consider to be an even better mod than camber plates if you're focused on handling and performance and taking your car to a track. And the reason is because camber is everything. You want camber going through the turn to maximize your tire contact patch so you have as much grip as possible so you can take the turns as fast as possible. So here I've just got a piece of 90-degree angle, and you can see with the car suspension in full droop, it's almost at 0 degrees of camber, pretty much square with the ground. But as I start to jack up the suspension, which simulates taking the car through a turn and the wheel compresses into the fender well, you can see here that there starts to create a gap on the top. And we can even look at this a little bit closer, but you can see now at the top there's a gap. And what that's doing is that's actually adding camber, which is the right thing we want, because as we're going through a turn, you want camber to increase so that the tire stays flat with the ground and you have as much grip as possible. Now, the reason why your suspension geometry works like this is because of your lower control arm. And as you can see here, I've jacked it up to the point where it's almost completely horizontal. And this is the ideal point. So once you're going through a turn and it's compressed this much, it's pushed out the bottom of your wheel as much as possible to increase your camber. However, if you go through a turn faster and you compress your suspension more, it's going to start going inward. It actually rotates around the circle and begins pulling in the bottom of your wheel to the point it can even go into positive camber. And here's a picture of what my car looks like going through positive camber through a high-speed turn. Obviously, that's not ideal because now you've got basically just the outside of your tire running on the curb, which is going to reduce your contact patch, reduce the maximum amount of grip, and make the car start to slip. So what the SPL arms do is they take this point and they lower it. So it's basically doing what we call increasing your roll center height. So it's raising the roll center closer to the center of gravity of the car, which helps basically allow you to compress this suspension further and still have the increased camber that you're looking for as you're going through a turn, and basically reduces how much positive camber you gain when you go through a turn faster. So that's really the big opportunity here. Once you understand the suspension geometry, you see why this is a huge benefit without adding a bunch of static camber like camber plates do, or without putting extra stress on your front axles like some other modifications do. This is something that dynamically improves the traction of your car and allows you to go through turns faster. So let's go ahead and take these stock control arms off, and then we'll compare them to the SPL arms. And now we've got the stock control arms removed, and you can see with them side by side exactly what's going on here. So stock control arms on top, SPL arms on the bottom. They are about the same length out of the box, at least for me. You know, it's always worth double checking, kind of line up the holes and make sure that the ball joint also lines up as well. If you want to make this longer, you can, but for most cars, I recommend leaving it as stock length, especially if it's an X-Drive car. The main benefit and what I'm taking advantage of is this roll center correction. So with just this piece, this tapered end, it pretty much matches the stock geometry, and it'll sit on here and space out the hub so that you get that roll center correction. But if you add these spacers, that is what changes the angle of the control arm. And so depending on your ride height, you're supposed to either use the two thinner ones or the two thicker ones, or a combination of the two, but you don't want to go thicker than the thickness of these two big spacers. So this is the maximum amount of roll center correction that you want to go with. I'm trying to do this gracefully, guys, but this is the maximum amount of roll center correction that you want to go with. So I'm probably going to go this route since the car is lowered. That's also a big benefit after you lower the car to help correct the geometry. But if you have more moderate lowering, or if you're at stock ride height, you know, you can just go with the two smaller spacers, kind of whatever is deemed for your setup. This is also their updated design. So with this stud, you do need to torque it very high. It gets torqued to 180 foot-pounds, and you need to make sure that even if you don't use all the spacers, which I guess you'll never use all the spacers, you need to put the extra ones underneath. So I'll show you guys once I get it installed, but I'm going to put these two spacers on top of the control arm, and then these two smaller spacers will go underneath the ball joint on the control arm, and then you'll tighten the bottom nut as well as the top nut to 180 foot-pounds. So it gets a lot of torque. That will make sure that you avoid running into issues where it loosens or breaks, or having any issues, especially on track, since, you know, we're going to be taking it to the track on my 3 Series. But you know, this is the main benefit. Now, yes, of course, again, this does lengthen, so it widens the track width and also adds camber. You basically want to lock this in place, and as you turn this nut, it extends both sides at the same speed. So this is the adjustment for those of you that want to take advantage of that. But again, my favorite part, and the reason why I think this is better than camber plates, is because of these spacers that adjust the roll center correction and dynamically increase how your car gains camber through turns. So let's go ahead and get this installed. So here it is. Now we've got the control arms installed, but there are a couple things that we need to do before we're ready to go. First of all is we're going to double check that nothing is binding, because you can see the spacers that I have installed here. If you have too many or too few, it could cause issues. So what you want to do is basically jack your suspension all the way up, all the way down, turn the wheel all the way to the left and all the way to the right, and make sure that nothing is binding or could be causing issues, because obviously if that happens while you're driving, then it could cause damage, and that would be a big problem. Now for me, I'm also going to be adjusting my sway bar. So what you see right now is the front sway bar is set to the soft setting. I'm going to move it to the stiff setting. And the reason is because I'm already having a lot of body roll issues on the front. I know a lot of people ask me, why did I even install front sway bars? Because if the front sway bar is too stiff, it can cause understeer, which is kind of a common problem with BMWs. Most people want to push more of that rotation to the rear. And that's the reason why I stayed on the soft setting here. But now that I've got the roll center correction with the front control arms, I think I can move this to the full stiff setting. That way I can reduce the body roll up front, get rid of all that compression that you're seeing and some of those, again, really high G turns. It's like the front corner of my bumper is almost scraping on the ground. So that'll tighten this up and also, again, help reduce how much camber loss I'll get in the front end. So hopefully this will compensate with the roll center correction so that it won't create understeer. And like most things with your suspension, when you adjust one thing, there are a lot of other things you probably want to do to complete the package. So this is going to be the next step for me to make it a much better driving experience. So yeah, now we've got the control arms installed. I'm really excited to try these out at the track. It seems like I was a little bit overly ambitious by installing all of the big spacers on my car. It might have fit, but when I was turning the steering wheel, it seemed like it was binding a little bit. So I dropped down to just one of the big spacers. And that is really key there. You want to make sure, again, you run it through the full sweep, turn your steering wheel all the way to the left, all the way to the right, compress the suspension, make sure nothing is hitting or binding so that you don't have any issues when you're on the road. Now, of course, the car isn't here right now because it is at the alignment shop. So I'm going to be getting an updated track alignment on my car. I'm not trying to change anything necessarily, but anytime you swap out parts like your control arms, it's going to change your suspension geometry, which will change your alignment. So in my case, I had a significant case of toe out. Both of my wheels were pointed outward with the steering wheel pointed straight. I lined it up a little bit just by adjusting my toe arms, but you want to bring it to an alignment shop to get aligned properly. Otherwise, you'll wear through your tires really quickly and it'll have some unpredictable handling characteristics. So get that done, get your track inspection done, whatever else you need to get ready for your track day, and take this car out to your road course so you can really enjoy the improved performance. So again, I will be headed to the track in about 2 weeks. And of course, I'll be posting the video review up here like usual. So stay tuned for that. A big thank you to SPL Parts for continuing to support my build and continuing to engineer new parts for our vehicles. Again, use the link in the video description so you can see what's available for your car, whether you have an F-Series or a G-Series, whether it's rear-wheel drive or X-Drive. They have the parts you need to upgrade your suspension and dial things in exactly where you want them. So again, thank you guys for watching and I hope this helps. And if you have any other questions or comments, leave them down below.